So, when I say the word geography, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Memorizing capitals? Coloring in maps of continents? Well, I want you to just toss that idea right out the window. Because geography, the real deal, is a field that's been shaped by centuries of fiery, passionate debates about our world and, our place in it. We're going to dive into the great intellectual battles that define what geography is all about today.
Okay, let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about it. Is who you are, is your destiny, controlled by the climate and the landscape around you? Or do you have the power, the agency, to shape your own world? And this isn't just some late-night philosophical question. It is the fundamental conflict, the central tension that has been driving geographical thought for hundreds of years. You see, when you boil it all down, every map, every theory, every single satellite image is, in its own way, trying to answer that one powerful question. From the very beginning, geographers have been trying to figure out the rules of engagement between us and our planet. So let's rewind. Our story really kicks off with the ancient geographers, and their mission was, believe it or not, pretty straightforward. Just map the known world. It all started with the Greeks and Romans, who really laid the groundwork. Then, incredibly, that wisdom was preserved and massively advanced by Arab scholars, while Europe was in the Dark Ages. And then boom, the age of exploration just blew the doors off our understanding of how big this planet actually is. For these early thinkers, the mission was all about describing and cataloging. You had Eratosthenes, who literally gave the field its name, geography, which means earth writing. You had Strabo describing the lands and seas, and Ptolemy giving us that grid of latitude and longitude we still use today. For centuries, the big questions were simply, what's out there and where is it? The deeper, why, well, that would have to wait. But just describing the world was never going to be enough. Geography was about to have its first huge fight, a shift from just drawing maps to actually debating the forces that shape us, nature versus human choice. On one side, you had this idea called environmental determinism. It basically argues that nature is the puppet master. Your climate, the soil, the mountains, these things determine your culture, your success, your whole destiny. But pushing back hard was possibilism. This camp said, hold on, the environment only deals the cards. It's up to human creativity and choice to decide how to actually play the hand. After that settled down, an even bigger fight erupted. This was a real identity crisis in the 20th century that called into question the very purpose of geography itself. And I'm not kidding, this wasn't just some polite academic debate. The stakes were incredibly high. Geographers were asking themselves, are we artists, carefully painting these detailed portraits of unique places? Or are we scientists, searching for universal laws that govern how things are arranged in space? In one corner, you had Richard Hartshorne. He was the champion of the traditional view. He argued that geography's special power, its real gift, was what he called areal differentiation, the artful, orderly description of what makes every single place on Earth special. And in the other corner, you had the revolutionary Fred Schaefer. He shot back that, nope, description is not nearly enough. He said if geography wants to be taken seriously as a science, it has to stop obsessing over what's unique and start searching for universal, testable laws about spatial patterns. And this table just lays out the divide perfectly. You've got Hartshorne's camp, all about being descriptive, qualitative, and focused on the unique. And then you have Schaefer's crew, which kicked off the quantitative revolution, all analytical, statistical, and focused on finding general laws. It was a total showdown between geography as an art and geography as a science. So the scientific, quantitative approach, it pretty much won the day, but almost immediately a rebellion started to bubble up. There was this growing feeling that, in the mad rush to become a science, geography had kind of lost its soul. I mean, the models were amazing, for sure. They could predict traffic flows or tell you the most efficient place to build a factory, but they couldn't tell you why a place feels like home. They couldn't capture the fear of a hurricane or the love someone has for a specific landscape. They had all the numbers, but they were missing the people. So the first pushback was behavioral geography. It basically tried to fix the scientific models by adding a human variable. The argument was that we make decisions based not on the real world, but on our own mental maps of it, our personal perceptions, our biases, our incomplete knowledge. But then a more radical approach came along. Humanistic geography wasn't interested in tweaking the models. It wanted to throw them out and focus completely on the subjective human experience. It started asking questions like, what does it actually feel like to live in a place? What are our emotional connections to our environment? At the very same time, another group of geographers stepped up and said, hey, our discipline has a moral duty to help solve real-world problems. And so they created welfare geography, which uses all the tools of geography to fight for social justice and to tackle huge issues like poverty and inequality. And this powerful quote just nails it. It perfectly sums up the whole mission. Welfare geography became the study of who gets what, where, and how. It's about putting injustice on the map, literally, and then using that knowledge to help build a fairer, more equitable world. So after all these epic debates and rebellions, what's the results? Did one side finally win? Well, not exactly. Instead, what we have now is a geography that's got this incredibly rich and diverse toolkit. Think of it like this. A modern geographer has a whole toolbox of different lenses. They don't have to pick just one. They can pull out the spatial science lens to analyze a bunch of data, then switch to the humanistic lens to understand the real-life experience behind those numbers, and then apply the social justice lens to ask, okay, who's benefiting from this and who's being left behind? And that leaves us with one last really crucial question for today. When we look at the enormous challenges we're facing, I'm talking about climate change, global inequality, you name it. Which of these geographical lenses is the most important one for us to be using right now? Or is the real answer that we need to learn how to see the world through all of them at once?